Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this week's podcast. We're trying something different. So we are actually in person, which is really very nice. So I hope this works for everybody. It's certainly probably going to work better for us. We've had some technical issues lately with Wi-Fi, so we're thinking this might make life a little bit easier. So my name is Keegan Brown. For those who are joining us for the first time, I'm the pastor of Bates Memorial and Trinity United Methodist, which is on the southern half of the Ocean Pine Snow Hill Cooperative Parish. And I'm joined, like I am every single week, by Pastor Karen Sadberry, who's the associate pastor at Community Church on the north end of the parish. This week's Bible study is going to be on Deborah as we continue our series on women of the Bible. And once again, Pastor Karen, she always matches who we study. It's amazing. In this case, Deborah is an amazing leader and someone that there's so much we can learn from. And even just today, I'm sitting here and I'm just soaking up from Pastor Karen. So I'm really excited actually to say that she didn't retire because it allows me to soak up from a really great leader. So thank you for not retiring. So, all right. So we are doing Judges 4. And it's a story of Deborah and how God really used her in some really cool ways. And then we're going to get to, spoiler alert, I won't give you the name, another woman in the Bible that Pastor Karen really, really likes. So you're going to get to see a really interesting side of Pastor Karen because this is her favorite woman of the Bible. All right. So that being said, I'm going to start with 4:1-3. The Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died. So the Lord sold them into the hand of King Jabin of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Haroshaphtho Goim. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help, for he had 900 chariots of iron who oppressed the Israelites cruelly for 20 years. I love the names. Like that town, that's just evil. I don't know why they had to have names that had that many vowels in them, right? It makes it very, very hard to pronounce. What I find interesting in this, though, is we got chariots and oppression. Because they had
Uh-huh.
chariots with Egypt and oppression. And that connection it seems to keep coming up in the Bible.
Mhm.
Why do you think that is?
It could be for the reason that you, suggested that it takes you back to Egypt,
Mhm.
and there's so many things in the Old Testament that are designed to take us back to Egypt to remember,
Oh, yeah,
because they're always supposed to remember and love God because God brought them out of Egypt,
right,
and the verse starts, "The Israelites again did things that the Lord saw as evil,"
right.
which is idolatry, so they are not remembering what
Sure,
God had done for them.
sure.
And so these chariots take us back there.
Yeah. You know what's also interesting to me? Because you're right. You're exactly right. And they had this history of a king who kept them with God and then the one
Mhm.
that didn't, and then the one like, and it's like this cycle. And you would think at some point they'd be like, hey, wait, we really don't like this cycle. And they would like step out of it. And yet somehow they keep stepping into it. I don't understand why or how. So, and you would think at some point it's kind of like our children. Like you keep saying the same thing to them and they're like, at some point they're going to get it. Right.
Yeah, they just don't seem to.
No, no. Unfortunately, Prophet Amos has to deal with that, but
Right.
that's another story for another day. So,
And God kept loving them, you know?
yeah, he did. He absolutely did. He absolutely did.
There
So,
had to be a time when God said, "Really? I gotta raise up another prophet. I gotta bring that they gotta have this message again."
again. uh, but on the flip side, you know what's cool about that is that he raises up people.
Mhm.
He doesn't raise up armies and he doesn't use chariots. He uses people and he's
Right.
like, all right, I'll raise up another prophet. You know, and I'm super excited about this particular one. You know, one of my frustrations when I hear people talk about women just in the church in general is they want to take like things from the New Testament like, well, a woman shouldn't be over man, like that a
Mhm.
woman shouldn't be in a position of leadership in the church.
Mhm.
And that's not true.
No?
It is not true because Deborah wouldn't exist
Right.
if that was true. Esther would not exist if that was true. There's so many times when God used women, and even Paul sent
Mhm.
people in the church to women to
Mhm.
learn. And I wish more people thought that way. So I know there's a subsection of the Christian faith that is really mad at me for saying that right now, but it is the truth.
And it's the truth from early back.
Way early back. Yes. Yes. Which is why I'm really excited that we're doing this Women in the
Mhm.
Bible study, because I think people need to realize women, they're the other half, right? Like, God talks about like the two become one, and that's the image of God. Like, that means
Mhm.
men can't be all of it because there's a whole part of God that's missing when
Right,
you're only talking about men. And that's
right.
not fair. It really isn't.
And this is off topic a little bit, but there's a lot of feminine imagery for God as well.
Hmm.
So if we downplay women, we downplay an aspect of
God
God.
himself.
Mhm.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and just talk about Deborah. So you were going to read 4:4 through 7, which really introduces us to her.
Okay. Now Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lapidoth, was a leader of Israel at that time. She would sit under Deborah's palm tree between Ramah and Bethel in the Ephraim highlands, and the Israelites would come to her to settle disputes. She sent word to Barak, Abinoam's son, from Kedesh and Naphtali, and said to him, "Hasn't the Lord, Israel's God, issued you a command? Go and assemble at Mount Tabor, taking 10,000 men from the people of Naphtali and Zebulun with you. I'll lure Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, to assemble with his chariots and troops against you at the Kishon River, and I'll help you overpower them."
So I'd like to bring up a couple of things that stick out to me on this. Okay. One, you notice it just says she's the prophet.
Mhm.
There's no justification required to what we were just talking about.
Right.
This is just who she is. And then what's the next thing it says? She's the wife of Lapideth, right? So being the prophet and leading the nation doesn't diminish her role,
Right.
right?
Right.
Where people like to say, well, you have to be one or the other. You obviously don't,
Right.
right?
And Deborah is the only judge who is identified as a prophet.
Hmm. Right. She's both.
Right.
And for those at home that don't know this little piece of Hebrew history, the point to the judges was the kings hadn't come yet. This is pre Saul and David and
Mhm.
Solomon, right? So she's truly the leader of Israel,
Right.
right? Because she's both the prophet and the judge.
Right.
And people are coming to her saying, how are we going to solve this?
Mhm.
Right. And they're looking to her for that wisdom. And very similar to the wisdom I was talking to you about things with me, right?
Mhm.
Right before the podcast started. Like, women are given this wisdom that we're supposed to tap into.
Mhm.
It's what God's designed. And I really wish more people thought that way. And that's why I love the story. That's why in the story, it's funny, the one you love and the one I love, right? I love Deborah for what she really says about how God uses women. I can't wait till we get to yours.
I just have a sick fascination
It's
with the other
okay.
one.
I'm
It's
looking
okay.
forward to it. I'm so looking forward to it.
But this section gives us an idea of the breadth of a judge's role
Yeah.
because Deborah settles disputes. She sits underneath that tree, identified as her tree,
Her tree.
and settles disputes between people.
Yeah.
But then she also commands the army.
Commands an army. Yeah.
It's like that's a lot of
She's like Joan of Arc.
yeah, it's a lot of responsibilities
It is.
for just a woman.
Right. Who's the wife of Lapideth,
Right.
right? Right. I mean, and she's really pointing out also, I think, to me, that when God gives you a calling, he's going to equip you for it.
Right.
And it may not be a calling that other people understand,
Right.
but it doesn't make it any less your calling.
And while she is identified as his wife, you would expect Lapidoth to have some adjectives after him
Right.
as to what he did.
Right.
But we don't have
Nope.
any of those adjectives.
Nope.
And so he is really countercultural for his day, is that instead of the man being above the woman,
Mm-hmm.
he may be equal or he may be subservient a little bit,
Right.
but he is not what defines her,
Right.
because you would expect it to say, Deborah, the wife of Lapidoth, who was all these things, who was also a prophet,
Right.
like to
Right.
minimize her, but it
It
doesn't.
doesn't. No, she is what she is.
Mhm.
And I love that she calls Barak to
Right.
be right. So like she's no, it really solidifies to me what her role is, right? She knew who she was to call,
Mm-hmm.
who was going to lead these men into battle.
And I don't know how your translation puts it, but when she summons him, she says, "Hasn't the Lord issued you a command?" So I wonder if maybe Barak had that calling, had been told by God to do this and hadn't done it. It
Well,
almost, in this translation anyway, sounds like she's nudging him.
nudging him a bit. So in the standard values, it says, so she sent and summoned Barak, son of Abinoam from Kadesh of Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord God of Israel commands you, position yourself." So
Okay.
she's giving the command. But I can see that. I would be interested to go back to the Hebrew and see which way it maps it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd be interested to know that, because that is a very important distinction.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it fits with what happens in our next section.
it sure does, but you're making me look it up. So I'm going to pull that up real quick while we continue forward. Okay. Because I want to know that in real time. Right. But what's really nice about it, though, is that doesn't, there's no, once again, fanfare.
Mm-mm.
Right. She's just saying, hey, this is what God's commanding you to do. Why don't you make sure you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's good for that to happen. So, all right, my Bible app doesn't want to work today, so I guess I'm not looking it up in real time.
Not.
So, okay. Because I'm hopping on and off the Wi-Fi. So of course it's the Wi-Fi. So she's got this, but I think the other thing that's important to me in all this is that the people are coming to her. So it also really demonstrates how faithful she was
Mm-hmm.
in this calling,
Mm-hmm.
because she was seen as trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel was not a small nation geographically. Like, it really was kind of big. It's not the United States or the Soviet Union, but I mean, some of these people would have had to travel a long way to get to Deborah, which meant that her authority, it was seen wide, right? That all of Israel was coming to her, because we're not no kings, therefore not divided kingdom.
Right. And it isn't really a kingdom yet. It's a a tribal confederacy.
True.
And so,
because there's no king.
Right. And so she might have only been seen as leader to certain tribes, but at least 2 tribes looked up to her. So yeah.
So with that, let's go ahead and move on to Mr. Barak, who he's a little bit of a disappointment. I'm going to be honest. He really is. So I guess that makes it me. So that would be 8 through 16. So Barak said to her, "If you will go with me, I'll go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go." And she said, "I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, the road in which you are going will not lead to your glory, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman." Then Deborah got up and went with Barak to Kadesh. And Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and 10,000 warriors went up behind him, and Deborah went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite had separated from the other Kenites, that is, the descendants of Moab, the father-in-law of Moses, and had encamped as far away as Elon, a place near Kadesh. When Sisera was told that Barak, son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera called out to his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the troops that were with him, from Harosheth Goim to the Wadi Kishon. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Up, for this is the day in which the Lord has given Sisera into your hand. Has not the Lord gone out before you?" So Barak went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 warriors following him. And the Lord threw Sisera and all of his chariots and all of his army into a panic before Barak. And Sisera got down from his chariot and fled away on foot, while Barak pursued the chariots and the army to Harosheth Goim. All the army of Sisera fell by the sword, and not one was left.
It's a pretty impressive victory.
It is a pretty impressive victory.
We have horses and chariots losing to
men on foot. Right. The interesting thing is, it doesn't say that they kept chariots. I would like to think that they kept the chariots as loot, right?
Yeah, because they didn't have that technology yet.
No. No. And that was what always did them in, was the chariot. So hopefully they got, like, but
But to get back to Deborah, yeah, I'll go with you. It's okay. I'll go with you. But you're not getting the glory. It's
right,
like, this is
right.
a wise woman.
It was absolutely the crazy thing about that to me though is him. Like, you got the prophet saying to you, God saying go. And he's like,
Hmm.
I'll only go if you go with me. And I'm like, man up, right? Like, that's really what I want to say to the guy. Like, she's telling you, you got two tribes, take 10,000 warriors and go. And he's like, maybe. I see both sides. Okay. I want to come to his defense for just a little bit. If she was the judge, if we think about where David went wrong with Bathsheba, right? He stayed back in the time of the year when the kings went out to
Hmm.
war, right? She was kind of the king, and though she wasn't a king, right? She was the leader. So I can kind of see where he's like, well, if we're saying we're going to war, you're the leader of the nation. You need to go with us. But he needed to man up because
But
God did not tell Deborah to go.
right.
God told him to go, right? So I think he was letting the culture of the day of saying the leader of the nation led the battle, right?
Hmm.
To not realize that God didn't want the leader of the nation to do it. He wanted Barak to do it.
And actually, God wanted God to do it
Fair.
because
Fair.
she's already told him that God is going with him.
Fair.
And
Absolutely.
God will bring the victory. And if they think back to the
Mhm.
entrance into the promised land,
Mhm.
God brought a lot of victories, a lot of times without an arrow being fired or a spear being
Mhm.
thrown or whatever. So again, they're still just missing their history and they're failing to trust God, perhaps because they had gone into this idol worship and were trusting them more
Yeah.
than God. We
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, they're just, as so often in scripture and even in our own faith lives, they just don't get it.
They don't get it. They don't get it. And to your point about their own history, it wasn't that long before when what did God say to Joshua? Be strong and courageous, right?
Mhm.
Because I've already gone ahead of you, right? So he's already seen as a nation like what God was going to do. He can
Mhm.
part the Red Sea, if he can make the walls fall down at Jericho, like, why would he think that this wasn't going to be overcome if
Right.
God was blessing this mission?
Right.
Many times when they went wrong was when God didn't bless the mission.
Right.
Right.
Or when they
Anytime.
decided, oh, when God tells us to bring the ark, we win. Let's
Right.
just bring the
Let's
ark,
just
even
bring
though
the
God didn't tell us to. That didn't go well either.
No. And yeah, they went wrong with the ark a lot of times. Like when they didn't want the ark back, so they stuck it in that poor guy's house, and then he got all blessed. And like, oh wait, we'll take that back now. I love that.
But let's put it in a wagon.
Yeah. Well, that's because they realized carrying it was a little dangerous. But they weren't supposed to do that. They were supposed to carry it
Mhm.
because I think there's an obedience and a faith that they were supposed to do.
Mhm.
But here we are. Okay. So we have come to the moment of truth, everybody. And I'm excited because we kind of laid out the scriptures so this would land at Pastor Karen. She may not have realized I did
No, I
that.
didn't.
So go ahead, read 17 to 24 for us, Karen.
Meanwhile, Sisera had fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there was peace between Hazor's king Jabin and the family of Heber the Kenite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come in, sir, come in here, don't be afraid." So he went with her into the tent, and she hid him under a blanket. Sisera said to her, "Please give me a little water to drink. I'm thirsty." So she opened a jug of milk, gave him a drink, and hid him again. Then he said to her, "Stand at the entrance to the tent. That way, if someone comes and asks you, 'Is there a man here?' you can say no." But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent stake and a hammer. While Sisera was sound asleep from exhaustion, she tiptoed to him. She drove the stake through his head and down into the ground, and he died. Just then Barak arrived after chasing Sisera. Jael went out to meet him and said, "Come, and I'll show you the man that you're after." So he went in with her, and there was Sisera, lying dead with the stake through his head. So on that day, God brought down Canaan's king Jabin before the Israelites, and the power of the Israelites grew greater and greater over Canaan's king Jabin until they defeated him completely.
I love that that's your favorite story. That makes you so human. It really does. I absolutely love that. So I actually love this. What I love about the story of Jael is because it goes way back to Egypt, like we were talking about earlier. Because what a lot of people don't know is that the Kenites were the descendants of Jethro, Moses' father-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she's there, because they were Hebrew adjacent. They traveled with them, but not with them.
Right.
Right. So they were off to the side, which is why Sisera would have felt okay, because there was a truce between him and the Canaanites
Mm-hmm.
that he could do that the Hebrews could not. So he would have felt safe. But yet Jael's got this weird little split, but not so split as we learned through the tent peg, right? Loyalty. That her husband's got this alliance with the king of Canaan, right? But they're sort of family with the people he's persecuting. So it's a really interesting variable in that story when, like we've talked about many times, it's why when it says this person is this person, that's why it's important
Right.
to actually tuck into, well, why do we care about the Kenites?
Right.
So,
And I mean, I love the fact that not only did the glory or the victory go to a woman, it went to a woman who wasn't an Israelite.
mm-hmm.
So that would have kind of rankled a little to some people.
That's true.
But it is just such an unusual way for a woman to kill. I mean,
did you expect her to use a frying pan?
No, or a poison or a suffocation, or she had him under a blanket. She could have put something
It really
over his
concerns
face.
me that you've thought these things through, Karen.
I watched too much Law and Order, I guess. I don't know. But just that she has this idea, the idea that she thought to kill him because her husband has a position.
Right.
And so you would think that, well, we don't know why she felt he had to be killed. I guess she might not have thought this alliance was the best decision.
Right.
But just that she decided this is what needed to be done. And she found, she must have been a strong woman.
I would think so.
Because that doesn't sound like something easy to do.
I would have to assume she was strong enough to do it in one blow.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't happen the first blow, he was going to wake up.
You think?
Yeah. So, yeah. And I would assume that tent peg was not small.
No.
Because their tents were homes.
Uh-huh.
This isn't like a little 2-person pup tent you bought from Coleman at Walmart. With a little plastic yellow tent peg. Right? Like this is probably hardcore, like a circus tent.
Yeah.
Right?
And it would have been like rough because they didn't have, like it wouldn't be a peg that you bought at Home Depot or Dick's Sporting Goods or something. Right. This is rough like the metals of those times.
Sure.
I like it, I think, because it's such an odd little story. It's not something you expect to find in Scripture.
No.
She is not my idol by any means, but she saw her opportunity and she took it.
Yeah. So for those of you watching at home, if you've made it to this point, do not believe her, because when we first started talking about the women of the Bible, she brought this story up. I was like, okay.
Well, if you're going to talk about women.
Right. I agree. So I've been really looking forward to this week. I'm going to be honest. So, but the other thing is, I want to go back to your statement about that it wasn't a Israelite woman.
Right.
Deborah knew that, but she doesn't tell Barak that.
Mm-mm.
Right. She knew a woman was going to do it. And if God had given her that vision, she knew who it was going to be.
You think so?
I think so. I really do. Because she knew that they were heading in that direction, towards the Canaanite king, because that's where the battle was going to be. So it was leaning away from their villages and camps, right? And so if we're going away from their camps, then, you would have to assume it's going to be someone where you're going to be, because the women didn't go with the men into battle.
Right.
So,
and she didn't wait for Sisera to come and knock at the tent flap. She went out to meet him and said, "Come on in."
Oh yeah, come on in. She's like in Hansel and Gretel. She's like, "Would you like some candy?" And she invites him right in, and he's like, "I'd like some water." "No, let me get you some milk.
Yeah.
Let me get
Yeah.
you some milk." Right? So she really laid it out to make it enticing,
Hmm.
enticing for him. Sure did. Sure did.
Stand guard? Oh, sure, I'll stand guard. You just go to sleep.
Yeah. You know, I love that in this story, we have three people and three very different responses.
Hmm.
Very different responses. Because you got Deborah, she's just leading with courage, right? You got Barak, who leads hesitantly,
Hmm.
right, with support. And then you have Jael, who leads in a way that nobody expects,
Right.
right? And it really also shows that, yes, God took the glory from Barak and gave it to Jael, right? But yet it shows that God can use all different types of leaders when he calls you up.
Hmm.
Because you have to know God knew he was going to do that because God's
Hmm.
omniscient, right?
Hmm.
So he knew how this whole thing was going to play out. With free will, it could have been him, but he knew how it was going to play out.
Right.
So,
Right.
and you notice it didn't say when he says, "Okay, but you got to go with me," and she says, "Okay, well then the woman's going to get the credit," right? That means before God told her to tell him, God had already told her he's
Hmm.
going to push back, and this is what's going to happen because of it, right?
But I'm sure that he assumed that it was Deborah who was going to get the credit.
Probably, probably. So, which is fine and fair, fine and fair. And maybe he was okay with that because she was the leader of the
Right.
nation,
Right.
not knowing it was going to be someone who wasn't even Hebrew. So,
Hmm.
so well, it's been a great week, Karen. Are you ready for your gotcha question?
I guess.
Nah, this is the highlight of my week. It really is. Okay. So your gotcha question here is, of the three types of leadership that we just talked about, which one do you resonate with the most?
Oh. Maybe Barak,
Okay. Why is that?
because I'm not fearless. I can talk myself out of a lot of things
Okay.
and overthink and question
Okay.
and at times be a coward. And we don't know why Barak said no. He might have just overthunk it. He might have overthought it.
It's okay.
He might have just been frightened,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very human, legitimate emotion.
It absolutely is.
Um, I don't think he knew just how bad he was going to come out down in history here, but
Sure. Sure.
I don't know. I know that I often question if I can do what I feel I should be doing.
Sure.
So definitely not a Deborah. And I don't think I'm quite so.
Vicious?
Yeah, I was going to say quick thinking, but I didn't like the sound of that. But vicious is probably a good word.
Feels vicious. Well, for what it's worth, I see you as a Deborah, right? I think you are a fantastic leader. So I think you really are. And being a good leader doesn't mean you don't doubt yourself. I think that's a sign of a great leader because otherwise there's an arrogance that can get you into trouble. And if you want, I can give you plenty of examples in the Bible of that.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them myself.
So, all right. So for everybody at home, thank you for joining us this week. And we look forward to next week when we continue on with our study through women of the Bible. Have a great one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.